Charlie Kirk's life ended in a silence as calculated as his every move, a single precise strike that left detectives chasing shadows and a city questioning how far powerful enemies would go to keep their secrets buried. Charlie Kirk's death shocked everyone who knew him and quickly became the most puzzling case the city had faced in years. A popular local radio host and outspoken political commentator, Charlie had built a reputation for sharp opinions and fearless investigations. On a humid July evening, he was found lifeless in his upscale Phoenix apartment. The discovery was unsettling, not just because of who he was, but because of how carefully the crime had been carried out. Neighbors reported no signs of struggle, no strange sounds in the night, and no visitors they could remember. Police found no evidence of a break-in. The front door showed no marks, the windows were locked from the inside, and nothing appeared disturbed. Charlie's valuables were untouched. His wallet, watch, and laptop remained exactly where he usually kept them, creating an eerie scene that looked less like a robbery and more like someone had entered with confidence, completed a mission, and left without a trace. When the medical examiner's report arrived, it added another layer of mystery. Charlie had died from a single, precise wound to the chest, delivered with chilling accuracy. There were no defensive injuries on his arms or hands, suggesting he never had the chance to fight back or even sense danger. Investigators concluded that whoever carried out the killing possessed either professional training or intimate knowledge of Charlie's habits. The precision hinted at someone who had studied his routines, waited for the perfect moment, and struck with the cold efficiency of a professional. News of the murder spread across Phoenix before dawn, sending shockwaves through the community. Charlie was no stranger to controversy, known for exposing political scandals and powerful figures on his radio show. Many wondered if one of those stories had finally caught up with him. Had a political rival sought revenge? Was there an unseen enemy hiding in plain sight? Reporters swarmed outside the apartment building, and social media buzzed with theories, each more dramatic than the last. Yet amid the speculation, one fact became undeniable: this was no random act of violence. The crime scene itself felt like a message, a carefully staged warning that someone, somewhere, had secrets worth killing for. As detectives began their work, it was clear that uncovering the motive behind Charlie Kirk's death would be as dangerous as the act itself, and the answers were buried deep beneath layers of power, influence, and fear. Detectives launched a meticulous investigation into Charlie Kirk's final days, hoping to trace the steps that led to his death. His reputation as a fearless radio host made the task even more complicated, because he had collected a long list of adversaries over the years. Every recent interaction became a potential lead. They began by combing through his phone records and emails, searching for anything out of place. A pattern emerged, a series of brief late-night calls to a number that was not saved in his contacts. Each conversation lasted less than a minute, too short for casual discussion and too regular to be accidental. When officers attempted to trace the number, they found it was registered to a prepaid account with no identifying details, a dead end that raised more questions than answers. While sifting through Charlie's home office, investigators discovered a small flash drive left in plain sight on his desk. At first glance, it appeared ordinary, but when the digital forensics team opened its contents, they found a maze of encrypted files. Slowly, fragments of information began to surface, references to offshore bank accounts, coded transaction numbers, and a list of prominent business figures known for political donations. Alongside these clues were scattered financial reports, heavily redacted and inconsistent, as though someone had tried to destroy them before they reached the public. The team quickly realized that Charlie had been working on something far bigger than a typical radio segment. Attention turned to his final broadcast, in which he had teased a major expose. He had promised listeners a shocking revelation about a hidden financial network influencing local elections. The statement seemed almost prophetic now, a public warning that he might have been silenced before he could reveal the full story. Detectives began to suspect that the motive for his murder was not personal revenge, but a calculated attempt to stop information from spreading. Even with these discoveries, the trail remained fragile. Whoever controlled the money behind these secret accounts clearly possessed immense resources and the ability to cover tracks. Investigators faced a growing sense of unease. If Charlie had uncovered something capable of shaking powerful institutions, the people behind it would not hesitate to protect themselves. The case shifted from a simple homicide to a high-stakes battle against invisible forces, and each new piece of evidence hinted that someone was always one step ahead. Surveillance footage from the neighborhood surrounding Charlie Kirk's apartment offered the first tangible clue, though it was far from straightforward. Detectives collected hours of recordings from traffic cameras, nearby businesses, and private doorbell systems, patiently reviewing each frame for anything unusual. After days of careful analysis, a pattern emerged: a black sedan circling Charlie's block 3 separate times on the night of the murder. The vehicle's headlights were dim during each pass, and when investigators tried to run the license plate, they discovered it had been deliberately removed. The car never parked and never stopped long enough for anyone to catch a clear view of the driver. To most people, it would have seemed like nothing more than an ordinary car on a quiet night. But to the detectives, it looked like a calculated surveillance run, a slow and deliberate sweep to confirm timing before the fatal strike. Forensic specialists enhanced the grainy footage, revealing a faint detail almost invisible to the naked eye: a small emblem on the rear window depicting a hawk in mid-flight. That insignia matched rumors surrounding a clandestine civic group whispered about in political circles, known only as the Airy. Though never officially linked to any crimes, this shadowy organization was said to recruit former intelligence officers and military contractors, individuals trained in covert tactics and capable of making problems disappear without leaving evidence. Their supposed mission was to quietly influence local politics and protect the financial interests of their backers. Until now, these stories had been little more than urban legend, the kind of speculation Charlie himself might have explored on his show. Investigators dug deeper and uncovered a troubling overlap. Several names connected to the offshore accounts on Charlie's flash drive also appeared in scattered reports about the area's suspected donors and associates. The discovery hinted at a hidden network operating beneath the surface of the city, tying together money, power, and the quiet elimination of obstacles. Yet no direct evidence linked this group to the murder itself. Every lead that pointed toward them was slippery, disappearing behind shell companies and encrypted communications. The more detectives pursued this angle, the more they sensed they were being watched. Anonymous tips led nowhere, and data trails went cold just as quickly as they were found. It felt as though an invisible hand was guiding the investigation into dead ends, a silent reminder of how dangerous the truth might be. Charlie's death was beginning to look less like a single act of violence and more like a carefully orchestrated move in a much larger game, one in which the investigators themselves were now unwilling players. Just as the investigation threatened to collapse under layers of secrecy, an unexpected witness emerged to shift the direction of the case. A retired bank auditor contacted the police after seeing the growing media coverage, claiming to have worked with Charlie only weeks before his death. The auditor explained that Charlie had approached him with a collection of suspicious financial documents, asking for professional insight. According to the witness, the paperwork detailed a clandestine fund siphoning public development money into offshore accounts. These weren't random transfers. They followed a precise pattern designed to look like routine city expenditures. What caught the auditor's attention was how closely the figures matched municipal budgets, a scheme so intricate it could have continued for years without detection. Investigators immediately compared the witness's testimony with the encrypted files recovered from Charlie's flash drive. The account numbers and transaction codes lined up perfectly, proving that Charlie had indeed uncovered a sophisticated embezzlement operation. As detectives dug deeper, one name surfaced repeatedly: a respected city council member celebrated for championing transparency and ethical governance. Publicly, this politician projected an image of reform and civic pride, but behind the scenes, records hinted at a growing personal fortune that far outpaced an official salary. The most unsettling revelation involved the council member's spouse. Military service records revealed a history of covert operations and advanced training in surveillance and close-quarters tactics, the kind of skills capable of executing a swift, precise killing. The detail fit too neatly with the clean, professional nature of Charlie's death. While the council member's wealth might have been explained away as savvy investments, the spouse's background placed a sharp new edge on the investigation. It suggested not just financial corruption but a capacity for violence when secrecy was threatened. Armed with this information, detectives prepared a series of quiet interviews and financial subpoenas. Yet each step forward was met with resistance. Key records vanished from municipal archives overnight. Potential witnesses suddenly refused to speak, some claiming intimidation, while others simply disappeared. The deeper the investigators pressed, the clearer it became that this was not an isolated crime, but a carefully protected network. The council member maintained a calm public presence, dismissing rumors as politically motivated smears, while the spouse avoided the spotlight altogether. What had begun as the hunt for a murderer was now a direct confrontation with entrenched power. Every new clue underscored the danger, exposing the full truth about Charlie Kirk's death could topple influential figures, and those individuals seemed willing to do anything to keep their secrets hidden. Despite the mounting evidence, the investigation into Charlie Kirk's murder reached a frustrating stalemate. Detectives had mapped out a web of financial corruption, offshore accounts, and political influence, but each potential breakthrough dissolved under legal technicalities and missing records. The city council member quietly resigned, issuing a brief statement about personal reasons and a desire to protect family privacy. No charges were filed, and no direct link to the murder could be proven. Behind the scenes, investigators suspected that high-level connections and carefully timed interventions had shielded the real perpetrators from scrutiny. The spouse with military training disappeared from public view entirely, reportedly leaving the country just as media attention intensified. Officially, they were not wanted for questioning, yet their sudden absence created a vacuum of suspicion that no one could ignore. Public outrage grew as the case dragged on without resolution. Citizens flooded town hall meetings demanding accountability, while journalists pursued every angle of the story, uncovering hints of intimidation and quiet payoffs. Anonymous sources described shadowy figures warning potential witnesses to stay silent. Leaked documents suggested that powerful donors and business leaders feared exposure if the investigation continued. The atmosphere in the city shifted from curiosity to unease, as if everyone understood that something larger and darker than a single murder was at stake. Detectives worked tirelessly to keep the case alive. They revisited old leads, scrutinized the financial network, and even reached out to federal agencies for assistance. But with every step, critical evidence seemed to vanish. Hard drives were wiped, surveillance records overwritten, and paper trails conveniently lost to bureaucratic mishaps. Each setback made it clear that whoever had orchestrated Charlie's death possessed not just wealth but influence at every level of government and law enforcement. The murder had become more than a crime. It was a demonstration of power. In the end, the official report labeled the case unsolved, citing lack of conclusive proof. Yet few doubted the underlying motive. Charlie had uncovered a scheme that threatened people with vast resources, and silencing him protected a network of corruption far broader than anyone first imagined. Though his killers remained unnamed, the chilling message lingered. Secrets tied to money and power can outlast even the most determined search for justice. Residents of Phoenix were left with a haunting realization that the truth was not lost, it was deliberately buried, and those who buried it intended to keep it hidden forever.